I once heard in a Farbrengen, there are a number of names given to certain days that we all know. Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, the first of Tishrei, second of Tishrei, is Kabbalah Soul, Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of it all. But we know, of course, for generations amongst Chassidim, Yud-Tes Kislev has been called the Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus. And lately, how long I don't know, but within the last 60 years. So Yud Shvat, Yud Aleph Shvat, is often referred to as the Rosh Hashanah of Iskashrus, a time when the idea of a Rosh Hashanah is that the whole year follows that day, and all of the keiches of our relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and we know in terms of the Kadosh Baruch Hu's relationship with us, all of our Gashmias ultimately is determined based on our davening, Rosh Hashanah. And in terms of our connection to the Eibishter, crowning the Eibishter King, Kabbalah Soul, accepting upon ourselves the commitment of a relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, so that's Rosh Hashanah, and the year follows that day. We don't talk about Tchilas Hashanah or Shana Chadasha, right? We do wish a person a good year, but we don't talk, in English they say Happy New Year. We don't say Happy New Year, right? We say it's Shana Tova, it should be a good year, right? But we talk about Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year, the head of the year. And Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month, in that everything follows the head. So as we relate to Rosh Hashanah, so that gives koyach for the whole year. So to Yud-Tes Kislev is Rosh Hashanah Chassidus. Chassidim say we're allowed to say these things. Not everybody agrees with us, but that's okay. We're still allowed to have an opinion. You're allowed to have an opinion. Doesn't mean that everybody agrees with your opinion. They're also allowed to disagree with your opinion. That doesn't mean your opinion's not true. But you're actually allowed to have an opinion. And we say that Rosh Hashanah of Aleph Tishrei without the Rosh Hashanah of Yud-Tes Kislev is lacking. Pnimius, it's lacking something. Because in order to truly appreciate what it means, Kabbalah Soul, to accept upon ourselves the yoke of heaven and to have a serious relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, how can a person do that without learning Chassidus? Rosh Hashanah Chassidus is the Pnimius, gives Chayus to Rosh Hashanah. So to Yud Shvat, Rosh Hashanah Vizkashrus, learning Chassidus without a connection to the Rebbe. There's an idea that when people Farbrengen, they talk about the idea of someone being a chassid of Chassidus. There's no such thing as Chassidus that didn't come from the mouth of a Rebbe. There's no such thing. Chassidus is that which the Rebbeim teach us. It's not some amorphous body of interesting information that says a lot about the inner meaning of life, Torah, mitzvahs, etc. It does that. But Chassidus is the Rebbe's message to his Chassidim and to the world at large. That's what Chassidus is. So Yud Shvat is the Pnimius of Yud-Tes Kislev. To truly appreciate what Chassidus is. To put it in the vernacular, most people are aware of these words. Chassidus isn't stam a nice vart. A good vart. A nice answer to a question. Right? Or I remember once saying something over to someone. He asked for an idea in the parsha. So I said, okay, said a little something. We were waiting for a bus. So it's one of those waiting for a bus type ideas. It's not like you're in the depths of the deep when you're waiting for a bus. Now you look at those little screens, and you're very happy when the 6 turned to a 5, because now it's only 5 minutes. The bus will be. So you're thinking about the 6 and the 5, and someone says you have an idea in the parsha. So I said, I don't remember what I said. So he said something I thought was so interesting. Oh, that works. Meaning, like that answers the question nicely. Does it have any deeper meaning? Does it have anything to do with my day-to-day life? Does it have anything to do with whether the bus is going to come? I don't know. That works. That was the line. I thought that was a very interesting way of describing Torah. Torah isn't about that, words. Torah is about the revelation of truth in Elam Hazeh. God's truth is revealed in Elam Hazeh, and we actually have access to that infinite and beyond infinite truth, and that's called Torah. And the most powerful revelation of all of that is in Chassidus. Chassidus is Pnimius Torah, the most powerful revelation of the truths of Torah. Is Chassidus better than anything? It's not better than anything. It just happens to be the Pnimius of everything. That's what the Rabbi explains in Yonah Shoter Chassidus, that there are 4 different levels of exegesis, to use a fancy word. There are 4 different levels of understanding the Torah, Pshat, Remez, Drush, and Soid. And they all have their own character and deal with questions in the Torah in different ways. The questions tend, interestingly enough, to usually be similar. The question is, what kind of answer do I give to the question? A pshat answer, a drush, a remez. So sometimes there are questions in Kabbalah that don't exist in pshat. Very rarely, sometimes there are, the question does exist in pshat, but very rarely. For instance, Rashi on Chumash very rarely deals with which name of a Kadosh Boruch Hu is mentioned in any particular pasuk, because that's not really a pshat issue. It is a pshat issue if there's a clear contradiction. Happens to be very interesting. Right at the beginning of the Sefer Dibros, it's not that far from Shavuos. We can still remember that there was a holiday called Shavuos in the fairly recent past. Hopefully, we're still living with it. So in Matan Torah, the first Rashi in Perek Chaf. Rashi finds it necessary to explain why the shame Elokim is used there. So Rashi never does that. But if you look at the psukim, it's very interesting. What's unusual? It says V'yadaber Elokim is called. I'm just asking you. This is a Farbrengen. It's a law. Like we're not. It's not a speech. So the Rashi, the pasuk says V'yadaber Elokim eis kol hadavar me'el lemor. What's the next verse? It's a famous verse. Anochi. What does Anochi say? Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher yitzitzchem Eretz Yisrael mibeis avodim. Okay, what's wrong? Pshat. What's wrong? Well, Anochi, okay, the word Anochi is an unusual word, that's true, though it does appear a number of times in Chumash. Okay, there's certainly the question, why in the world is the Kadosh Baruch Hu introducing himself? We know, we have seen the makers, there's a very much simpler pshat. These are all questions that Rashi answers, not Anochi, but it says, V'yadaber Elokim Anochi Yud Kei Vav Kei. John said, I'm Jim. That's what the pasuk says. So Rashi finds it necessary to explain why it says V'yadaber Elokim. Because after all, it then says Anochi Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is a different name. So why does it say that? That's a pshat issue. But very rarely does Rashi do that, because names of a Kadosh Baruch are not usually pshat issues. That's usually what you and I call sod. So there are sometimes questions in different levels of pardes where a question in pshat won't be a question in sod, or a question in sod won't be a question in pshat. But what's chassidus? So the Rabbi explains in his famous sikha, it's printed as in Yonah Shoter Chassidus Yutes Kislev Tavshin Chaf Vav or Zayin, I don't remember. It was one of those two. I apologize. I wasn't there. I don't remember. So the Rabbi explains that Chassidus is the pnimius of all of them. The essence of Pshat is Chassidus. The Chassidus on the Pshat, and the Chassidus on the Drush, and the Chassidus on the Remez, and even the Chassidus of the Kabbalah. The pnimius of it all is Chassidus. The etzem of it all. And of course the Rebbe actually goes through a mitzvah in the Torah, al pi pshat, remez, drush, and soid, explains the mitzvah al pi those four, and explains what the etzem of the pshat is, and what the etzem of the remez is, and what the etzem of the drush is, and what the etzem of the soid is. You know, which it's not really, it's not a mitzvah, it's a haggadah. What is it that the Rebbe explains, you know? What idea? Meida ani. The Rebbe explains Meida ani, which I believe Rabbi Stolman said that when he asked the Rebbe what his favorite part in Tefillah is, it was Meida ani. Is that not true? So the Rebbe explains in Yonah Shoter Chassidus Meida ani al pi, all four levels. Hat with There's a hat in the other room. I did see a hat. In the classroom to the left. On all 4 levels, and the chassidus in each. Chassidus is the etzem of reality, the essence of reality, the essence of the Torah. Without chassidus, it's hard to appreciate what Rosh Hashanah is. Without Yud Shvat, without Rebbe, it's hard to appreciate what chassidus is. And we now, in this generation, are faced with another challenge. And I heard in Farbrengen, there happens to be on the piece of paper about this Farbrengen. I heard in a Farbrengen a year or 2 ago someone who described Gimel Tammuz as Rosh Hashanah L'Emunah. The Rosh Hashanah of Emunah. Specifically Emunah in the Rebbe and everything that the Rebbe is about. Chassidim try, whether we succeed or not. Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. But we try, we've been educated to look at everything in life within its pneumistic ofen, in its innermost real expression, as opposed to its external reality. What does that mean? So we'll talk about that. Well, let's talk about it. I think that's what I'm going to talk about. We're going to try to talk about that. We'll see. If it doesn't make sense when I finish, so okay. Then I didn't do it. That's what a Farbrengen is. I'm not comparing the two, because one is a little more grub than the other. But someone once said to me, Farbrengen is like people sitting and playing jazz, and a class is like a symphony. In a class, a symphony, everything's like, it's all there on the paper. And everybody does their thing. But they can't move anywhere from their thing. Everybody, the violin, if the violin decides he wants to start expressing violinness in the middle of, like the conductor hits him with a stick and he leaves. He can't do that in a symphony. But not that, comparing Farbrengen to jazz, don't quote me on this. But people like so Farbrengen goes. Chassidim have a saying that it says in Devarim 3 times. It's nachon, it's correct, the thing, meaning we looked into it, and indeed it's correct, that a despicable thing was done amongst the Jewish people. Chassidim say, what does that mean? Ki nachon adavar, nachon miloshin muchan, prepared. That if a Farbrengen is completely prepared, then a despicable thing has been done amongst the Jewish people. Right? Farbrengen, nowhere in Chazal does it say that words that come from the brain enter the brain, or words that come from the brain enter the heart. Chazal say words that come from the heart enter the heart. So Farbrengen is hopefully we're speaking from the heart. That's what now that itself is a challenge, right? But hopefully, very often when people talk about the Indian this is a Farbrengen, you see, we're not where we were going, but we're coming back to where we were going. It's all right, we're at a rest stop. We pulled off at a rest stop and we're buying a Coke in the machine. So the Rebbe asked us to explain in Yad Mashiach and Geula to people, Ba'ifnim Iskabel, in a way in which it will be accepted. Now, obviously that means we have to think about what we're saying. More importantly, we have to make sure it comes from the heart. Because if we really believe it, then it'll make an impression on the person. If we're saying an idea that's a good vort and it works, the person might not necessarily accept it. Right? Because the environment yitzim in a lev, if nothing the lev. When we talk about Mashiach with people, we should be talking from our heart, and then it'll penetrate. People will accept it. And if it doesn't, the Rabbi even says when people are trying to bring other people closer to Yiddishkeit one way or the other, and we're failing, then the failing is not them, it's us. It means that we're not talking from the heart enough, and therefore they're not affected enough. The Rabbi says that absolutely clearly. So he's not easy on us, the Rabbi. He doesn't make it easy. He makes it astounding, amazing, incredible. Use every positive word you could ever imagine in terms of what a relationship with the Rebbe does for our life, but easy is not one of the words that would fit.
But in a way it is.
Well, it's true. It's easy to actually have something that matters. That's true, but it's hard to, I don't think it's easy bringing Mashiach. We're hanging out there 23 years later, and we're still Farbrengen. I'm talking on Gimel Tammuz. Why in the world am I talking on Gimel Tammuz? We know who should be talking on Gimel Tammuz. So, Rabbi Groner said last night that it's hard for him to speak on Gimel Tammuz. And everybody thought that he meant, the emotions of it all. And he said, it's not hard for me to speak because of emotion. He said, it's hard for me to speak because Gimel Tammuz is a day when the Rebbe is found amongst us in the most powerful way imaginable. And who am I to get up and speak in such a situation? Right? But he said, but that we know the Ratzon of the Rebbe is that we should Farbrengen, and that means there's got to be a korban. So he said, okay, so he'll be the korban. And he said, actually it's interesting, it's a former student in my note. And we're not going to answer the question right now, right here, just to throw out the question because it's a real question. He said this student, the wonderful guy who's in my note for a couple of years, then he went to Morristown, he got married, he's working in I think his father's business, he's doing very well. He's a wonderful Chassidish guy, lives somewhere near Monsey, or Pomona, which is near Monsey. And he said to my friend, the Baruch Hashem, they have a relationship which is great for the young man who used to be a student of mine. And he said, the Rebbe, sometimes it's just a myth. He's a mythological figure for me. So I never saw the Rebbe. How do we make sure the Rebbe isn't a mythological figure for someone? That's definitely the challenge of education today in Lubavitch, with Balei Tshuva, with kids who grew up in Lubavitch homes. How is it that the Rebbe's not a myth? Some mythological figure, this amazing, incredible tzaddik. Most mythological figures have built, so you can't see videos of them. Okay, Seder, but it's still someone with whom this person doesn't necessarily have a personal relationship. Well, that's exactly the challenge, is to have a personal relationship with the Rebbe. Just like our challenge is to have a personal relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's called Emunah. Emunah is that level of power of our soul that allows us to connect to a Kadosh Baruch Hu in a way that intellect doesn't allow us. Emunah is a power beyond intellect. The world says you don't know, you just believe. Yidden say that Emunah is that which allows us to connect to something that's beyond intellect, that intellect can't connect to. There's all sorts of things that intellect doesn't relate to, and they don't necessarily have to be beyond intellect. There's just things that intellect can't understand because it's not an intellectual reality. The color orange. Explain the color orange to someone who was born without the power of sight. You can't. It doesn't fit in the box called intellect. That doesn't mean intellect isn't impressive, but intellect can't explain orange. Orange is a visual experience. Once I've had the visual experience, so then of course I can now discuss it in intellect. And designers can talk about different shades of orange and aspects of orange and what orange goes well with, and that's all real. But that means nothing to someone who doesn't have the power of sight or never had the power of sight. Beethoven wrote a symphony after he lost his power of hearing, but he heard first. Then he could write a symphony. But if he had never heard, of course he couldn't write music. How can you write music if you've never heard music? Love. The next time someone asks you to prove God's existence, ask them to prove the existence of love. Prove in a laboratory that love exists. No such thing. Why? It's not intellectual, it's emotional. It's something different. It's not an intellectual reality. That's why all of these intellects can spend so much time writing poems and books and about love. and never really hit it on the nail. Why? Well, because it doesn't fit into that box called intellect. It's an emotion. It's not an idea. Love isn't an idea. It's an emotion. You can then have ideas about that emotion once you've experienced the emotion, but someone who's never experienced the emotion doesn't believe in the emotion. They don't believe in the existence of such a thing. And that's an issue today. Something called love. Not falling through love. Love is this as the bedrock of a commitment. Really, the commitment is the bedrock of the love. That idea is an idea that a lot of people don't have a great handle on. Well, if you've never experienced it, the first experience is usually from parents. If we haven't experienced it, so then it's very, very hard to give it or receive it once we're adults. So you don't know what it is. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is beyond intellect. Emunah is that power in our soul that allows us to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a way that transcends our understanding. That's what Emunah is. And Emunah, that's why Yidden are called Ma'aminim b'nei Ma'aminim. A Jew has an essential connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that transcends intellect. That doesn't mean that we aren't challenged to bring that connection into our intellect. That's why we learn Chassidus. That's why we learn Torah in general and Chassidus in particular. What's Chassidus? Chassidus brings the deepest ideas that ultimately are beyond intellect. We would never think of these ideas ourselves, but they were revealed to us through Moshe Rabbeinu, Tzaddikim, Rebbeim, etc. These ideas were revealed to Nevi'im and Tzaddikim throughout the generations. Torah comes from above. Kadosh Baruch Hu gave these ideas to the world, and now these ideas are ideas that we can bring into our conscious reality, and it can be part of our intellectual reality. But it's not that we believe in the idea because we understand it. No, we want to understand the idea because we have an essential connection to it. We want to understand Torah because Torah is the Eibishter, and we have an essential connection to the Eibishter. We want to bring that essential connection into our conscious reality. So we learn Torah. And then it becomes real, it becomes part of us. Something that's not you know, the Rebbe has taught us all. We were just discussing this morning, so I'm sorry Rabbi taught us all. What does it mean to learn Torah, learn Chassidus, and internalize it? A lot of people, and you hear this said, when you work in the realm of so-called Balei Tshuva, which the Rebbe refers to as late beginners, that they sacrificed so much to be frum. That's a very interesting way of looking at the world. What do you mean they sacrificed? They could have been a rich doctor. Never. They gave it all up. They gave up everything good to do what's right. I mean, that's what that means, right? Sacrificing. Now, I understand there is a sacrifice involved, but from the sacrifice, where does the sacrifice come from? The sacrifice comes from looking at the world a certain way. But once we look at the world the right way, what is Olam Hazeh? Olam Hazeh is the place where you can have an amazing relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's what Olam Hazeh is. Olam Hazeh isn't, I don't know, hotels. I mean, there's hotels in Olam Hazeh, but what is Olam Hazeh really? Olam Hazeh is the place where, if you want to appreciate Elokus, that's the place to do it. Olam Hazeh is Torah mitzvahs. That's what's happening down here. We could miss it all and get involved in all of the chitzonius, the external reality of Olam Hazeh. But the pnimius, what Olam Hazeh is really all about, Torah, mitzvahs, Mashiach, that's Olam Hazeh. So if we miss that, we missed out on everything. That's how Chassidus looks at the world. So the Rebbe looks at the world. That's how the Rebbe wants us to look at the world. And that's right. You don't sacrifice anything to keep Torah and mitzvahs. You miss out if you're not keeping Torah. You're missing out on what Olam Hazeh is really all about. You're missing out, right? And a chassid feels, I hope, that without a relationship to the Rebbe, without a relationship with the Rebbe, we're missing out on the sweetest, most amazing thing in terms of understanding what's Olam Hazeh really all about and what are we supposed to be doing down here. And we want to be part of that. Because that's the panemius of everything. That's the inner reality of everything. I remember once, and it's amazing that he said this. And I was at it's called the JLI National Jewish Retreat, which happens once a year in a very fancy hotel somewhere in America. It's about 1,100 people sitting learning Torah, eating, alternating between learning lots of Torah and eating unbelievable amounts of food. Cheesecake, on demand, at any time during the day. Not after deflation. Dinner, there's the tea room that has, I don't know, 8 different types of cheesecake. It's beyond belief. It's just amazing. So in the context of that, there's also something called the Sinai Scholars Retreat. 150 college students come and are part of Chabad on Campus's 4-day retreat. But they're in the same hotel with the adults, etc. They have their own classes and their own program, and it's quite an amazing 4 days for them. Meitzi Shabbos. This was 3 or 4 years ago, I don't remember. Meitzi Shabbos, 2 in the morning. I was there with Rabbi Levinger, who at that point was running our girls' school. So we were both there together because there's 150 college students, and we're the ones teaching the college students, but it's also recruiting, obviously, for Mino. So we walked into a Farbrengen, 2 in the morning. There's 5, 6, 7 shluchim couples. 10, 12, 14 shluchim were there, and they're in charge of the college kids, and they're bringing with them in classes and programs and amazing stuff. Meitzi Shabbos, 2 shluchim were sitting down with about 30 students, 2 in the morning. There's going to be a couple of classes Sunday morning, but it's basically over. Many of them, a lot of those, probably 30 or 40 of those 150 kids decide they're in a hotel, there's food, there's everything they need. They'll keep Shabbos. They keep Shabbos for the first time in their life. It's all there. They don't have to do anything. They have to do something. There's one thing they have to do. What do they have to do? Put away the phone. It's the one thing they have, and they do it. They put away the phone. There's one issue that comes up, which is just completely annoying, is that all American hotels, you can't get into the room without being Machal Shabbos, because they all have electronic keys. What are the rabbis all doing? This is what we tell everybody to do, is to just tape your door open, right? They give out tape, Erev Shabbos, everybody can tape their door open. And there's people walking up and down the hallways if people need to get in and they open the door for them, but it's very annoying. So, but a lot of them figure out how even not to do that. Meitzi Shabbos, 2 in the morning. There were 2 stories at the same Farbrengen that were amazing. One of the guys asked Rabbi Shlomi Chaim, very, very pneumistic guy, was the shaliach in Simcha Cruz, California. He and his wife on campus. So he asked, why should I be frum? Now this is a college kid. You never, especially today, when the college kids come to Mayano, the last 3-4 years we have changed the way we deal with them, and we ask them before the class, when they come with birthright or with these rulings, 2 programs, we ask them before the class, we're going to have a class now, we're going to be discussing ideas, is it all right for me to disagree with you? And they all say yes. Okay, then you can disagree. Because if you don't ask that question, they will be extremely offended that you disagreed with them. And they don't know how to deal with that. Because no one disagrees with anybody anymore.
Even if you make a safe space and you give them...
we have a safe space with
Huggy bears.
We have Huggy Bears and we have chocolate pudding. And very often we are the ones who have to go to the safe space after the class. You have to actually ask them, are we allowed to disagree? And then you've now created a situation where you can. Because you'll say, okay, what do you think Pshat in Rashi is? And he'll say, well, if you don't ask before, and you say, well, perhaps there's a problem with that, they will get offended, complain to the rabbi, and you'll hear about it.
What is this thing? What is this situation?
Birthright, Israel links, kids coming into the yeshiva for an hour or two, one-off.
Okay.
You have to be extremely careful. It's crazy.
Millennial madness.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it is, but it's crazy. So now that I'm just putting, this is all in context. This is what Shlomi Chaim said to this. This is 2 a.m. This is called, they call it, I think in the world, unplugged. It's just, whatever you want to say. So this young man asked Shlomi Chaim, why should I be fruit? So Shlomi, without missing a beat, just looked at him, said, so you won't be a loser.
Wow.
So the guy said, what?
Wow.
What do you mean? What do you mean, Rabbi? But he was willing to, he said, what do you mean? So he said, this world is all about the opportunity to relate to God. And if you don't do that, then you lose out on what's really happening down here. And so you lose. You can have a wonderful life, and you should have everything you want. Gashmias, Ruchnias, He blessed them with everything. But you missed out on everything. The kid was like blown away. So then about 20 minutes later, a young girl walked in, sat down. The rabbis were sitting at a table. All the kids were sitting out there, and she sat. Rabbi Levin and I were sitting over there. We were just listening. She sat right here, facing the rabbis. They were both sitting. And there was a lull in the conversation, so she felt that she wasn't interrupting, and she apologized. She was very, very menschlich. She said, am I interrupting? No. Can I ask you guys a question with this look of absolute seriousness on your face? Can I ask you guys a question? So, I said, yeah. With this look like, this. For the last 4 days, I heard the most amazing ideas I ever heard in my life. Mind-blowing ideas in every class. I never heard anything like this. I don't know what to do with it all. My head's exploding. Do you guys really live like this? That's what she asked. As real as it gets. She just like, you can't live on this level of reality all the time. I mean, this is like unbelievable, these ideas you've been talking about. So one of the people, the other shaliach was Zalman Blooming from, he's a shaliach. He used to be both Duke and North Carolina, which are right next to each other in North Carolina, but now he's only in North Carolina. I think there's another shaliach from Duke, but they're sister cities. I think, you just cross the street and you go from one to the other. One's, I think, Durham and Chapel Hill, that's what they're called. And there's another one, Raleigh. Those 3 cities are all together. So he lives in Chapel Hill. It's a wild place for a Jew to live, but okay.
That's Tennessee?
No, it's North Carolina. North Carolina. So he said, I don't know whether I'm real, but I'll tell you a story. He said, we have a little son who's now about 9 or 10, so this must have been 4 or 5 years ago. He said he's 5. His name is Mendel. It's a good name. He said, Mendel there's no school for Mendel in Durham, North Carolina. So we send Mendel for 2 or 3 hours every day to a non-Jewish kindergarten so that he can just play with kids his age, so that he'll have some social interaction with other 5-year-olds. And to quote Zalman, and this is, if you've ever met Zalman Bloom, he said, so he won't grow up to be a nerd. That's what he said. He'll have some social, this is a 5-year-old, has no social interaction with any other 5-year-olds. So they send him to this school a couple of hours a day, so he'll have some interaction. And they make sure that it's, an innocuous time of day. So Zalman was packing his sandwiches every day, and he saw that Mendy kept coming home with the sandwiches not eaten. So he said, Mendy, you're not hungry? He said, yeah, I'm hungry. So why don't you eat the sandwiches? He said, Tati, there's no one to help me with Natilas Yadayim.
Wow.
He said, I don't know whether I'm real, but my kid is.
Wow.
That's real. A little 5-year-old who won't eat because, who knows, Emma Lou, is running the kindergarten in North Carolina. So Emma Lou doesn't know how to wash someone's hands. I guess he didn't want to eat, whatever. So he didn't eat. So that Eilam Hazeh is Elkus. Eilam Hazeh is about Torah and mitzvahs. That's what Eilam Hazeh is. And if we're not doing that, we're losers. We're missing out. Not losers, oh, there's something. We're missing out. We're losing out on what's really happening. That's what's really happening in Eilam Hazeh. All the other stuff, there's a lot of noise, and it's more interesting, less interesting. It's hard for us not to, get involved in some of it. That they find this. I mean, in all fairness, the Americans just had an election campaign, which is the best theater that has been around since Shakespeare. I mean, like watching this thing go on was just, unbelievably exciting. It was incredible. What's going to happen next? And then it ended. So, happily ever after or not, I don't know. But whatever. But so it's hard not to have some understanding of what's going on out there, and certainly if we're part of it, so we're part of it. But that's not really what's going on. The Rebbe teaches us that what's real in Eilam Hazeh is Elokus. That's what's real. We're not giving up anything by keeping Shabbos. We're getting what there is to get in Eilam Hazeh. Hopefully not means that, I want to get what there is. But that's reality. The beauty and the majesty of this world is Torah and mitzvahs. Yes, there's beautiful mountains. There's beautiful landscapes. There's beautiful seas, rivers, lakes. Unbelievable. Incredible. Beautiful artwork. There's all sorts of stuff. Some of the stuff was created by Kodesh Baruch Hu. Some of the stuff was put together by people. The beautiful stuff, for sure. What's really beautiful? Waking up in the morning, putting our hands together and saying Meidani. That's the most beautiful thing imaginable. And without that, what's a day? That's the most amazing thing. The Rebbe, it's so interesting that Rabbi Stillman was telling his story. That's what Rebbe said is his favorite feat. Meidani. The expression of the essential connection to the Yid with the Kodesh Baruch Hu that transcends any level of tumah. So even though we haven't washed our hands yet, even though we can't say a bracha, we can't do a mitzvah, we can't even talk to another human being yet. Meidani, the Meidani of a Jew is beyond all of that. Wow. That's Eilam Hazeh. There's no Meidani. I don't think Malach can get up and say Meidani. Right? Why? There's no tumah, there's no tara, there's just, life. I don't know what, do they go to sleep, B'chla? I don't know, what do they do up there? I don't know. Metaphysical reality is very unusual, very confusing to us. What does it look like? I don't know. Never saw it, don't know what it is. I understand the fact that there is such a reality, but to describe it, I have no clue what it looks like. Physical reality, that we understand. Eilam Hazeh is the place to be. It's all happening here, in Elokus. Gimel Tammuz, the chitzonius of Gimel Tammuz it's a day of Helam v'Hester. It's a day of concealment, of hiddenness. And again, you can't say that isn't what it is. What it is, we haven't seen the Rebbe since that day. The Pnimius, what's Gimel Tammuz? Why? I don't know. Every now and then I've heard people try to explain it, and I honestly, I don't buy it. I don't buy that. Maybe I'm just one of the Kitnei Emunah. I don't know. I don't believe there's anybody alive in Eilam Hazeh who understands why Gimel Tammuz, so to speak, has to be. Because I guess it does, because it is. That's not our issue. Why is a crooked letter? For Vos is a klipa. My son Yossi was learning Yiddish once. Hopefully he learned it already, so now he doesn't have to learn it. But I remember when he started learning Yiddish, so he came up to me and said, Abba, for Vos is lama why? That was pretty good. Why is why? 3 different languages, right? For Vos is lama why? So why we don't usually know the answers to that question. Sometimes we do, but very often we don't know the answer to that question. People who have to deal with certain challenges in Eilam Hazeh, if they get stuck in the why of it, they tend to not be besimcha. if they can transcend the why of it and deal with the reality of it. I don't know why, but it is. And I have to deal with this besimcha like everything else, then they can manage that. Why? I don't know. The worst why is why me. That's the worst. That's much worse than why. Because why is like, general. Why me? A person who's dealing with a particular issue and they're like, why me? Well, get out of the why me. That's not the issue. The issue is how are you going to deal with this besimcha? That's clearly what God wants. Why he wants that? I don't know. Why did he create the world in the first place? We don't know. Okay, he had a type, he had a desire for a dir b'tachtenim, for a dwelling place in the lower realms. Okay, now, I hate to be annoying. Why did he have a type for a dir? We don't know. There's no answer to the question. If you were to ask the highest level of godly chokhmah, why is it that in Atzmus, in the essence of God, there was a taiva, a desire for a dir b'tachtenim, a dwelling place in the lower realms? If you were to ask chokhmah stima, some of the highest levels in God's wisdom and God's understanding, the chokhmah stima would say, I don't know, because it comes from a place beyond me.
You wouldn't say
Madua, no.
The answer is
We don't know why. Why?
The answer
Right,
is
and
why not?
Gimel Tammuz, why not? I think we all have lots of answers for that, right? I don't think that's a hard one.
No, for him
But-
to have a desire.
Okay, say that. Okay. Baruch Hashem, he had a desire because I think we appreciate that experience that we have called existence. I think we appreciate that we enjoy that experience. It's quite a kick. Okay. But why Gimel Tammuz? I don't know, and I don't pretend to know. And the Rebbe himself says in countless sikhs, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense why it is that we're still in Golos, etc. So it's not for us to answer the question. We have to understand on some level what it is, and what it is bechitzonius is one thing, but what it is bepnimius is clear to all of us. Gimel Tammuz is part of the process of the ultimate revelation of Mashiach. Why is that part of the process? I don't know. Are there sophisticated reasons that one might give as to why this might be? Yes, 100%. Could be. Is it right? I don't know. That's why giving answers like that is always dangerous. Because in Torah, we're not interested in brilliant ideas, we're interested in true ideas. And if we can't be sure of its truth, so then why say it? I remember once sitting in Farbrengen in 770, and Rabbi, my Dovnik from Tzfas was Farbrengen, and he was sitting here. And right there is the bima where the Rebbe Farbrengen, right behind him. So he was sitting at a table. The tables go this way, and the Rebbe's table goes that way. So he's sitting at that table to his back, and there were all sorts of walking around the table. And he started saying something, and he stopped dead. What happened? He said, got very serious. He said, I'm not sure that what I was about to say is true. It's an interesting idea, but I'm not sure it's true. And in this room, all we ever heard was truth. I'm not going to say it. What do we hear in that room? Truth, with a capital T and a capital R and a capital U and a capital T and a capital H and a zillion H's. Truth, the biggest truth ever. That's what we heard in that room. That's what that room is about. Truth. Is it the only place we heard truth? No, Friedrich Rebbe never bring down there. Friedrich Rebbe would bring upstairs. A lot of times Friedrich Rebbe would bring in the apartment of Friedrich Rebbe, and there was a speaker in the small zal downstairs. You can actually still see the wire that came down through the floor that connected that speaker to the Friedrich Rebbe talking upstairs. And the Bochum would gather around down. There would only be a few people in the Friedrich Rebbe's apartment, and the Bochum would all gather around downstairs, and there was a speaker that was stuck on the wall. The speaker's gone, but the hoot is still there. You can see the hoot that came down from upstairs. So it's not the only room, but for us, that's the room. Panemius, the inner meaning of it all, to get beyond all of the external concealments, Gimel Tammuz is part of a process. The process is ultimately the revelation of Mashiach. It should happen tekef u'miyad. That's what Gimel Tammuz is. And the Rebbe himself explains that that's what Gimel Tammuz is. See, how can the Rebbe explain what Gimel Tammuz is? Gimel Tammuz, Gimel Tammuz as a day in the Lubavitch calendar, of course, did not start in Gimel Tammuz, Tafshin Nun Dalet. Gimel Tammuz is a day in the Lubavitch calendar from Tafresh Pei Zayin, 1927, when the previous Rebbe was arrested. On Gimel Tammuz, of course, what happened, the previous Rebbe was let out of jail and sent to exile in Kastrama, and was there for a few days and left on Yud Beis Yud Gimel. He was told on Yud Beis, but the government offices were closed, so he actually left on Yud Gimel. Fine, so that's why we celebrate Yud Beis and Yud Gimel. Gimel Tammuz is the beginning of that process, and in the Sichta, in Parshas Kera, Tavshin Nun Aleph, the Rebbe explains, asks a very interesting question. B'chlal, another major event in Jewish history happened on Gimel Tammuz, and what was that? Shemesh v'Kiva and Doim, that the sun stopped in the middle of the sky to allow Yoshua to win the battle. So the Rebbe asks a very interesting question about that. That's an amazing miracle. It's one of the great, when you ask people for the top 10 miracles, that'll be in there, right? I mean, the sun stops in the middle of the sky, that's amazing. Incredible. I understand. The Eibishter wants to do a miracle. And what's the miracle? The miracle is to allow us to win the war. So why not just have us win the war by 5:30 in the afternoon? Why make the sun stop and have us win the war at 9:30 at night? Just win the war at 5:30. Without the sun stopping. We're going to win because the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to win anyway, and the Psukim themselves say that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is throwing a vonim in a shemayim on the people, on the Canaanites. Why this miracle? Such a powerful question. Look and see. Amazing question. Rabbi also relates that to the matzah, to the staff of Aaron, why it had to first, it went through the whole natural process of producing almonds instead of just almonds showing up. It's a miracle. This is a stick. How is it possibly producing almonds? Okay, it produces those almonds in a natural way. The Frierdiker Rebbe was let out of jail, was set free in the context of a process. It didn't all happen at once. For whatever reason, certain events happen within the context of a process. Rebbe talks about the fact that makes a greater impression in nature itself. The fact that the supernatural is expressed within the context of natural reality. So that Aaron's staff goes through a natural process which shows that on one hand it's a completely supernatural event. On the other hand it's clothed in nature, which means that beyond nature and nature itself will become one. Okay. And that, the Rebbe says, is also an explanation as to why the whole freedom of the previous Rebbe began in such a way. Interestingly enough, what does the Rebbe say about Gimel Tammuz? Gimel Tammuz, Tafresh Pei Zayin. Gimel Tammuz, 1927. No one knew whether this was good or bad. And you'd say, well, wait, I understand. Of course they thought it was good because there was a sentence. There was a capital sentence passed against the previous Rebbe, and that was commuted on Gimel Tammuz. Well, the Chassidim didn't know that. They didn't know there was such a sentence of Hepech HaChaim, the opposite of life, and they didn't know that it had been commuted on that day. All they knew was the Rebbe is being moved from one place to another place. Is this good for the Jews or bad for the Jews? Don't know. What happened later? It was revealed later how amazing this was, to such an extent that the Rebbe used to Farbrengen with us in Gimel Tammuz every year. There's a Farbrengen, a major celebration. The previous Rebbe never Farbrengen in Gimel Tammuz. There's a Sifra the Rebbe explains in such a fascinating way that why did the previous Rebbe never Farbrengen in Gimel Tammuz? So the Rebbe explains that the inyan of the Rebbe is to be with his Chassidim. And Gimel Tammuz didn't create any change in the ability of the Rebbe to be with his Chassidim. He was sent from prison to exile. So he still wasn't with the Chassidim. So Gimel Tammuz, mitzad the Rebbe, nothing happened. So the previous Rebbe never Farbrengen. The Rebbe, as a chassid of the previous Rebbe, always Farbrengen on Gimel Tammuz. The Rebbe explains, mitzad the chassid, what matters? The essential reality of the Rebbe. And on Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe with us in Olam Hazeh, that we now know that that became something al pi teva more real, because the sentence that was passed against the Rebbe was commuted. So for the Chassidim, what do they want? Rebbe. The Rebbe, what does he want? Chassidim. He wants to be with the Chassidim. So the Rebbe couldn't be with the Chassidim. So the Frierdiker Rebbe never celebrated Gimel Tammuz. But the Chassidim always celebrated Gimel Tammuz. What's our Gimel Tammuz? Our Gimel Tammuz. Why did the Rebbe explain this all to us? Right? The Rebbe explains things to us just because it fits, it works, it's a nice word. The Rebbe explained all this to us so we'll understand what Gimel Tammuz is. Gimel Tammuz b'chitzonius is a time of Helen v'Esther. Gimel Tammuz b'pnimius is the continuation of a process that we hope will end tekefu miyad mamish, that we should already reach the end of it. In Tafresh Pei Zayin it was 9 days, which became 10 days, which might have seemed like an eternity to those Chassidim, but 9-10 days, that's not 23 years. But even the freedom of the Frierdiker Rebbe in Beis Tammuz, Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe says in the same sikha, didn't bring about the ultimate completion of the task, because after all, where was the Rebbe when he got out of jail? He was still in Russia. Still had to leave Russia, and he left, came to America. We're still in Golas. So the process is a continuing one, but we want to bring it to an end. How do we bring it to an end? The first thing we have to realize is that's what Elam Hazeh is all about. That process, that bringing that process to an end. That's what goes on in this world. How do we do that? We start with Rosh Hashanah, and we get to the Yotes Kislev, which gives the Pnimius of Rosh Hashanah, and then the connection of the Rebbe, that's the Pnimius of Yotes Kislev, because Chassidus without Rebbe just fits, works, but it's not. But for us, in our generation, the Pnimius of it all is Gimel Tammuz. Do we see Gimel Tammuz as a day where, I can't Farbrengen, it's so depressing? That's the chitzonius of Gimel Tammuz. It doesn't mean that it's a day where we wake up, oh yay, Gimel Tammuz. I just love Gimel Tammuz. I don't think anyone else loves Gimel Tammuz. But we have to realize the Rebbe teaches us constantly to see the inner meaning of reality. And the inner meaning of Gimel Tammuz is the emunah pshuta that the Rebbe's Rebbe, and every single word that the Rebbe taught us is eternal and still resonates, and that the ultimate lesson that the Rebbe's whole Messias was about, and the whole existence of the world is about bringing about a dir b'tachteni, bringing about the ultimate revelation of Mashiach in Elam Hazeh. And that's what's happening. It's not that that's what was happening, that's what is happening. No less than before. As a matter of fact, Adarabah, now even more powerfully than at any other time, because you'll say 23 years passed and it still hasn't happened, so obviously we're that much closer. In my own personal life, I might feel it's harder to feel the immediacy of it than perhaps I felt in Tafshin Nun Beis. That's my issue. Then it shows that in Tafshin Nun Beis it wasn't real. 1992, when the Rebbe was talking about these things and people were walking with their feet 3 feet off the ground, we were expecting it just dot. Okay, well that's exactly the point. Is that it has to, the part of the process evidently is that it has to come from us, and it has to be not in terms of some sort of external revelation that brings us to this place, but it has to come from our own internal understanding of what life in Elam Hazeh is really all about. That we make Elam Hazeh Hadir B'Tachtei. And our son sent us, I put it on the Chabad Har Nof. Leibush sent a bunch of stuff, and I put it on the Chabad Har Nof, whatever it's called, group, WhatsApp group. An amazing sikha, the Rebbe from Tafshin Yud Aleph. The Rebbe says, you want someone to take care of everything and do everything. It's not happening. You want someone to help you a little bit with becoming a chassid of the Frierdiker Rebbe, but say that I'll do whatever I can do. But if you think that it's going to all come from me, that's another thing coming. It's such an amazing sikha. Rabbi says it's you. Every single one of you has to do what you as an individual have to do in order to bring about that which the Rebbe refers to the freedom the Rebbe wants. It's incredibly powerful, see? Okay, so we know we got more help than anybody. We continue to get more help than anybody. 2 days ago, I wrote a letter to the Rabbi about a particular inyan. And in the letter, there's two parts of the actual particulars are not they're important, but not for anybody else. And first thing I wrote the Rabbi is this is not the first time I'm writing about this. This is, I think, the third. And I mentioned that it might be possible to do something regarding it in a month. The letter that I opened to Igris, the Rebbe says, regarding your last letter, waiting a month is not a good idea. Now the Rebbe says, Michtav Achroin. He doesn't say your last letter, because I said right at the beginning, it's not a good idea to wait a month. I've been scrambling around for the last 2 days trying to figure out, okay, how to make this happen fast. I have no clue what I'm supposed to do. I haven't got a clue. I really don't. I've not succeeded. But okay, I'm still trying to figure out what, am I right to Rabbi back? What did you mean? He's going to say, Rabbi Groner spoke last night. It's interesting. My wife came home with this story from a Neshei Chabad get-together in Har Nof many, many moons ago, when there were enough Neshei Chabad in Har Nof to have a Neshei Chabad get-together in Har Nof. Which was many. What? How you hear me? Okay, so she came up with this story, and it's one of those stories. It's like an amazing story, but you also wonder, like, I mean, yeah, really? I mean, did it? It's like a wild story. So, but could it happen? Absolutely. Did it? I don't know. Remind me, I'm going to tell you what. I don't have a watch anymore. It just fell off. You have to go like that. You have to say that when it's.
There's a clock here.
There's a clock. There's a clock. I see the clock. The story of the rabbi who was speaking used to give very long drushes. And finally the congregation said, look, Rabbi, your drushes are great, but they're just too long. You can't put up with this, it's too long. He says, I know, but there's no clock. When you stand up there and you start talking, you really don't know how long you're talking because you're thinking about it. If there were a clock, then it would. They said, you're right, Rabbi, but there is a calendar. so we won't get there. There isn't a calendar, but there is a clock. So Rabbi Groner told me the following story, which happens to be the story. It happened in his house, and some of you will recognize the story. A woman came to Mrs. Groner. She wanted to write the Rebbe. She had a particular question. She asked Mrs. Groner, Aleph, can I write in English? And will you help me? So Mrs. Groner said, yes, you can write in English. And yes, I'll help you. So they put together the letter, and then Mrs. Groner said, go over there. There's the Igris over there. Take. Rabbi Groner, when he was telling me the story, he said, I don't write the Igris. My wife does. Nashim Tzadkanim. So the woman takes an Igris off the shelf and she puts it she puts her letter in the book and they bring the letter she brings the letter to Mrs. Groner. And Mrs. Groner helps her understand the letter. It's unbelievably in line with all of her questions, almost in the order. It's an incredible answer. And Mrs. Groner is just like, wow, this is unbelievable, this answer. So, fine, the woman's very excited. It's very clear what she should do. The answer was absolutely clear. And she closes the book, and to her horror, she realizes on the front of the book, it says, Igros Kodesh, a Rebbe Rayatz, the previous Rebbe's letters. She says, oh, you give out. It's the previous Rebbe. So Mrs. Groner said, well, what difference is it? The Rebbe gave you an answer. What difference is it? The previous Rebbe? No, I want to write the Rebbe. Well, you did. I mean, I don't know how these things work, but it's fine. Don't worry. The Rebbe used to go to the Friedrich Rebbe for all our brachas, right? Go to the oil, let's go. Let's see. Don't worry. No, this woman was inconsolable. Whatever. You couldn't console her. So fine. I have to write the. Okay, I don't know. I never saw an answer like this. It's an amazing answer, but you want another answer? Fine. So she goes over and she reaches up a shelf higher, a shelf lower, I don't know. She takes down an Igros to the Rebbe and she puts it in and she brings it to Mrs. Groner and says, okay, now I'll get my answer. Mrs. Groner opens it up and goes, So the woman says, what's wrong? The Rabbi says, I don't understand why you are asking me this question. My father-in-law answered you absolutely clearly. Now, when I heard the story, I said, wow, that's a what? It happened in the Groner's house. Mrs. Groner is the one that happened with. So
Same thing happened.
So the Rebbe isn't a legacy. The legacy of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. When was it? Last year that everybody wrote books? Why did everybody write books last year? What was last year? I don't know. Somehow books came up. Was it last year? Anyway, whatever. Maybe.
20 years.
Yeah, 20 years makes sense that people would all write books. But anyway, whatever. I thought maybe it was 3 years ago and it just seems whatever. There should be books about the Lubavitcher Rebbe so people know who the Rebbe is, which not us do, but they can get a. The Rebbe is not legacy. The Rebbe is if we want, the Rebbe is alive. The Rebbe is part of our lives. A person can make a reality that isn't like that. You know what? A person can do that with the Kodesh Boruch Hu too. They're not the same. The Rebbe is the Rebbe and the Eibush is the Eibush. The Rebbe is the Rebbe because the Eibush is the Eibush. The Eibush is not the Eibush because the Rebbe is the Rebbe. But the Rebbe is the Rebbe because the Eibush is the Eibush. And the Eibush, I don't know why. Another why. Why is it that a Kodesh Baruch Hu gets this kick out of doing things through tzaddikim? He likes to do things through tzaddikim. He wants to split a sea. There's this sea sitting there. He likes this people. There's this people called the Jewish people. They're sitting at a sea. It's a problem. There's these mad Egyptians coming, racing down to kill them. And there's this body of water in the way. And God decides it's a good idea to perform a miracle and split the sea. God doesn't split the sea. Well, he does split the sea. But he asks Moshe to split the sea. Why? I don't know. That's what he likes to do. He does. You look at the Chumash, it's full of it. All these amazing stories and the Jewish history. Why? Why? The Rabbi actually talks about it in Sichos, but okay, but bottom line, I don't know. If the Eibush didn't do it that way, we'd also have to figure out why that makes sense, and they both make sense. The Eibush wants to give us the Torah. He has Moshe go up and get the Torah and bring us the Torah. I understand. He had to do it that way. There's other ways to give us the Torah. Just, we run into it. Everybody bumps into a stick and picks up their own little personal Sefer Torah, like kids have at Simchas Torah. There's a little sticker on it, dear Shloimi, this is the Torah, love God. And everybody gets their own little Torah, and then we go, There's going to be people who are teaching it, I understand, so we're going to go to Moshe and say, Moshe, can you help interpret it? It's fine, no problem. But it has to be that Moshe goes up, and it's Gam B'cha Yaminu Li'olam. They'll also believe in you, and they'll believe in Nevi'im afterwards. That's the way it works. So we have a Rebbe, Baruch Hashem. It's still the way it works. The Rebbe also, enough, likes things to work through shluchim. I heard a story last week and a half ago. So I told it in Shir on Tuesday. Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. It used to be Monday, now it's Tuesday. I'm confused. Told it on Tuesday, and I said that, to the ladies and shit, I'm going to probably tell it to Farbrengen, because it's an amazing story. My son told me the story. He heard it from someone named Meir Trager. Meir Trager heard the story, and then asked the person in the story who shows up in the story is Ravitcher Springer. Meir Trager heard this story about Ravitcher years ago. Ravitcher passed away a couple of years ago, and went to him in 770, asked him, is that story true? And Ravitcher smiled and said, yes, it's true. What's the story? There was a Jew who didn't feel well. Went to a doctor. The doctor gave him very, very bad news. Said, Piteva, not a long time. Went to another doctor, same. Another doctor, same. Went to the Rebbe. Whether it was dollars or Yechidus, I don't know. I assume it was probably dollars because he goes back to the Rebbe in the story very soon, and in Yechidus that was hard to do. So, and in the years where you theoretically could have done that, Ravitcher was not sitting in 770. So he went to the Rebbe and asked the Rebbe, they told the Rebbe the story and asked the Rebbe for a bracha, for a shleima. The Rebbe said, talk to your mashpia. So he went to speak to his mashpia. His mashpia said, talk to Reifim Yedidim. Speak to doctors who are your friends, doctors who you know. So he went to two Reifim Yedidim, they both said exactly the same thing. He went back to the Rebbe. The Rebbe said that he was told to go to his mashpia. He said, I did, and this is what the mashpia said. So the Rebbe said, in one way or the other, it's not clear exactly how, the Rebbe said, you should have a special mashpia for this inyan. Not your regular mashpia. You should talk to someone specific about this inyan. Okay. He left that Yechidus, dollars, in the room, I'm not sure. And he was very broken. He was hoping he'd get some sort of, if not mezuman, at least a check, the bracha, something else. He walked down into 770, and he saw Ravitcher Springer sitting there. And he sat down next to Ravitcher, and he started to cry. He poured out his heart to Ravitcher and said, look, this is what's happening in my life. And he told the whole story. And then at a certain point, while he was telling the story, he said, Ravitcher, maybe you'll be my mashpia in this inyan? So Ravitcher said, wait, hold on, explain what's going on. So he explained again. Went to the mashpia, he went from Yedidim, came back. The Rebbe said, you need a special mashpia. So Ravitcher said, the Rebbe told you that you need a special mashpia for this inyan. And you say that I should be that mashpia. Yes. Ravitcher looked at him and said, you're healthy. So he said, what? He said, you're healthy. Go to a doctor tomorrow, you're healthy. He went to a doctor, he was healthy.
Wow.
It was gone. It's a true story. Meaning, you hear the story, oh, come on. I mean, the Rebbe doing it, we have no problem. Ravitcher, Ravitcher was a special guy, but I mean, he was Ravitcher Springer, he was like, just, what we want to be, but better. Right?
Wow.
But like, he wasn't the Rebbe. What's so amazing about that story? Ravitcher understood something that we all have to understand. And that's why we tell stories about Chassidim like that. You're a chassid of the Rebbe. If you think that when the Rebbe wants you to do something, you might not have the capability to do it, that's mitzad your own yeshus. It has nothing to do with reality. You might say, well, who am I to accomplish such a great thing? I mean, what, I'm such a great person? Get out of yourself. Stop talking about yourself. The Rebbe wants this to happen. Why? I guess the Eibishter wants this to happen. Okay, because the Eibishter tends to like delegating authority. Well, evidently now and then the Rebbe delegates authority, and he delegated the authority to you specifically or us in general. And the Rebbe wants something done. If we think we can't do it, that's all mitzad our own yeshus. It has nothing to do with humility. It has to do with exactly the opposite of humility. If we understand reality, we understand that as a chassid of the Rebbe, if the Rebbe wants it done, then it's the Rebbe's keiches doing it, and you're just the kli. Ravitcher, it's so amazing. Here's a chassid sitting in 770, has the wherewithal to say, wait a minute, what's the story? The Rebbe said you should have a mashpia, and you want me to be? That means the Rebbe just gave me the koyach to make you better. You're healthy.
Wow.
And it worked. Whoa! Whoa! What an amazing story. So the story came up in a Farbrengen, obviously, 10 days ago. Parsha Shlach. Or the Meraglim. The Meraglim were the ones who didn't have the Emunah Pshut in Moshe Rabbeinu, that if Moshe wants it to happen, it will happen. And we're just the vehicle to make it happen. It's not that we're really doing it. Meaning, we're doing it, but we're doing it with the keiches that we're being given. We're the ones that have to do it. Why? Because that's what the Eibishter wants. That's what Moshe wants. Why? Again, why? I don't know why. Stop at the why. Kachazeh. The Rebbe wants us to bring Mashiach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants Mashiach. Even though, it's hard for us to understand if he wants it so new. Okay, but he doesn't just want Mashiach. He wants Mashiach to happen in a certain way. The Rebbe is Mashiach. There's Mashiach waiting to redeem the Jewish people. But evidently it has to come from us. And if we haven't figured that out by now, so, when are we ever going to figure that out? My goodness gracious. So we complain 23 years. 23 years is a long time to not get the message like this. We have to do this. And it's hard for us. It's very hard for us because we're just stuck in Eilam Hazeh mitzad the external reality of Eilam Hazeh. And the Rebbe wants us to be in Eilam Hazeh in terms of the internal reality of Eilam Hazeh. That's very hard for us because we're us. We all know who we are. I don't know who you are, and you don't know who I am, but I know who I am, and you know who you are, and it all basically is the same. Right? We're like stuck. So we have to unstuck. And how do we unstuck? And Munin, Mesh. Because we're stuck. Because we're focused on me doing it. As opposed to the Rebbe says it has to get done. And if the Rebbe says it has to get done, and we just do it, then it gets done. But if we're stuck on how am I going to do it, so then Rabbi Groner, I remember once told the story. I heard the story twice, once in a Farbrengen and once in it was a Farbrengen, but it was just, it was a private Farbrengen in his office. Baruch Hashem, for whatever reason, he's been very good to me, and I get to walk into that office and sit and talk to him and hear all sorts of amazing things and learn all sorts of amazing things. I remember once walking in with my brother, Tuvia, and we asked Rabbi Groner if he was, I think it was Teskis, because we asked Rabbi Groner if you bring anywhere tonight. He said no. And then he sat down and told us half an hour, just story after story after story of the Rebbe. And then he smiled. He said, "Well, I guess you got your Farbrengen." I remember once it was not that time. I remember he told me the following story. He told it slightly differently in Farbrengen. He added one prat, one detail, which is an interesting detail. I guess he just didn't tell it in the context of a conversation over a table. And the story was that the Rebbe in a Farbrengen asked a certain group of people to accomplish a certain task. I have no clue what the task was. Fine. So these people, they're serious people, they met Meitzi Shabbos and sat down to try to figure out how to do what it is that the Rebbe wants done. Rabbi Groner not to tell the Rebbe. Now, how is he supposed to do that? But anyway, so, he failed at that part, right? So Sunday morning, sure enough, after I assumed the Rebbe said good morning, Rabbi Groner told me another story once that he was on the phone 3 or 4 or 5 times with a particular Jew about some meeting that the Rebbe wanted to happen. And the last time that he called him, he had called this person already. It was 9 in the morning, 10 in the morning, probably 12 in the morning. He had called him 4 or 5 times. The Rebbe said, "Call him from here." The Rebbe said, "Use my phone and call him." So he picked up the Rebbe's phone, he dialed, and he said, "It's labeled. The Rebbe wants to know," and the Rebbe interrupted him. He said, "You didn't say good morning." But he just talked to him 5 times, right? He didn't say good morning. Every time we should say good morning. It's labeled. And then, so I assumed the Rebbe said good morning to Rabbi Groner. I assumed. And then the Rebbe asked about this story. And the Rebbe was told by Rabbi Groner that they sat down right after Meitzi Shabbos. They made certain progress, and they hit this Mavoi Satum. They just hit this obstacle, and they don't know what to do. So Rabbi said an amazing thing. Rabbi said, "Don't they know that I also know that problem exists? And that if they had just done it, and I asked them to do it, and if they had just done it with a lechatchila riber, that a priori, we're just going to get it done and no obstacles are going to get in our way, they would have succeeded. But they let this obstacle get in their way. But I know there's such an obstacle." So then Rabbi Groner asked the Rebbe, "Should I tell them that?" And the Rebbe said something really astounding. The Rebbe said, "No. Because now when you tell them, it'll be seichel. It'll be intellect. Intellect never accomplishes anything. It has to be a mood." That's what the Rebbe said. I mean, if they had just done what I asked them to do because they have simple emunah that if I wanted it done, it's going to get done, so then it would have happened. Now you're telling them, I'll be seichel, that, so then seichel never gets it. Seichel never gets anything done. This is a Rebbe who spent hours and hours and hours, countless, 40 gigabyte of weekday Farbrengens, right? We obviously didn't tape the Shabbos, but the audio of the Rebbe's Farbrengens during the week, and every time the Rebbe said a sikh after Mincha, Marav, etc., takes up 40 gigabyte in one of those little iPod things, right? I remember when I was buying an iPod, I asked my son, what do I need? He said, you need 80. I said, 80? That's a lot. He said, the Rebbe's 40. No video, just audio. Now, I don't, that's a lot. Like, that's just an incredible amount. And there's a lot of seichel in there, right? An incredible amount of ideas and questions and answers. So that it's not that the Rebbe doesn't believe in understanding things. But what makes things work? Seichel. No. Yes. And if we look at Gimel Tammuz Mitzvah Seichel, if we look at Gimel Tammuz Mitzvah Emunah, then we're going to bring Mashiach to everything we have. Seichel? Seichel is limited. Doesn't mean what Seichel says isn't true. If Seichel is reflecting an idea as it exists in Torah, then the Seichel is true. But the Torah, the source of Torah isn't Seichel, the source of Torah is beyond Seichel. It just comes into Seichel. Emunah is what we need. Gimel Tammuz is the Rosh Hashanah of that Emunah. It's when we draw on this day Emunah for the whole year, and we should live with it and grow with it. And yes, we can even be besimcha, not the type of simcha where you go, oh yay, Gimel Tammuz, it's so much fun. Yutes Kislev and Gimel Tammuz, my favorite days. Not exactly. It's not one of those days. It's extremely real. Because on one hand, it's the most Eilam Hazeh of our relationship with the Rebbe. On the other hand, it's really the most godly of our relationship with the Rebbe, because we're not letting the Helam and Hester of Eilam Hazeh affect our understanding of what life is really all about in the most powerful way. So we should all be successful at doing what it is that we have to do. We should give each other brachas, and we were all certainly getting brachas from the Rebbe. Once Rabbi Groner told me the Rebbe was explaining to him the difference between the previous generation and this generation. Now, he wasn't sure whether this generation meant the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Rebbe or just the Rebbe, but it doesn't matter for us. The Rebbe said in previous generations the Hasidim had to work very, very, very hard. This is sort of contradictory to what the Sikh of the Rebbe said at the beginning, but it's not. The Hasidim had to work very, very hard to get anything that they got. And then the Rebbe, with his hands, went like this. He said, in this generation, the chef is coming down with such bounty that all people have to do. And then the Rebbe went like this. All people have to do is put out a teller, put out a plate, and catch all the bracha. The Rebbe is showering us with brachas because he wants us to do what we're supposed to do, because he can't wait to be back with us. But we have to get it done.
Amen.
Maybe a little symbol for what you explained about Adam Hazard, because we've been crying about the fact that we're Adam Hazard is so bitter. But when you say Adam Hazard is the Gematria, in other words, if we take the external idea of Adam Hazard, then it's Chet. Chet. But if you take the Hazard, it's 17, it's 30.
It's very sure.
And then we can get to the idea of Adam Haba, which Haba is the Gematria 8 now, whatever. I mean, I'm trying to give myself a little symbol of what you taught here. So, but I have a reason why you said we shouldn't ask why. Why did we have to have this miracle Shemesh B'Givam Dom? I struggle with lateness, and every Friday I say, Hashem, you do Shemesh B'Givam Dom, because it's such a struggle. It's so hard. So that's why you did it, so I should know what to ask.
Good point.
Could everybody ask for it together with me? Because it's such a struggle.
Somehow, it's a last-minute thing when Shabbos comes in at 8 o'clock and when Shabbos comes in at 4 o'clock. And it's one of those things that's l'maydim in a teva. But, it's interesting because the nimshal of it all is that the Rebbe says in a very, very well-known Maimer in Margaret Fluma the Rava, Rebbe explains 3 reasons why in our generation the Ikar of Veda is B'simcha. And the 3rd reason the Rebbe says is because we're already Friday afternoon. And it's after Chatzos, and obviously what we're doing is preparing for Shabbos, and we should be besimcha. The way to prepare for Shabbos properly is besimcha. Okay. Now the first reason the Rebbe gives, interesting enough, is you sort of have to understand all 3 reasons. We'll say it very, very quickly. The first reason the Rebbe gives is that we're not strong enough to do the Aved of Mariris, of bitterness, because we'll just get depressed. If we look at things in a negative way, we'll get depressed. And we need, the Rebbe says, idud v'hischazkus. We need encouragement and strength. So then, the second reason the Rebbe says is that also the Yidden are on such a high level because all of the challenges and trials and tribulations we've gone through have elevated us to a very high level. So every Jew today can go straight to what's called tshuva ilah, higher level tshuva, and doesn't have to go through the process of tshuva tatal, lower level tshuva. The tshuva of Mariris is usually that which brings you to a tshuva of simcha. But that's not necessary because we're on such a high level. So it seems the first two reasons contradict. We're on a low level, we'll get depressed. Ein lanu koyach is the first reason the Rebbe says. And most Mashpim explain that we'll turn it into depression because we're so into our own issues. And the second reason is we're on such a high level. And the third reason is because Otot Mashiach. So if you think about it, it's really amazing. The Iker that it's almost Mashiach. It's Friday afternoon.
We sign a chef is going to fall in it.
It's Friday afternoon, and we should be preparing for Shabbos B'Simcha. So that means the Iker Aved is B'Simcha. That means what? Interestingly enough, you look around at our world, people are having such issues with Simcha, they don't know what to do with themselves. Everybody's walking around with their chin on their toes. So why? I don't know why. But simple shot. If the Iker Aved is Simcha, so what's the biggest kleeper of our generation? Depression. The opposite of Simcha. Since our Aveda must be B'Simcha, that's the Dagesh of our Aveda, so then of course the opposite of that is depression, and that's the biggest klipa, and that's the biggest challenge. Interestingly enough, what time of day is it in history? It's Friday afternoon, 2:30. What does your house look like Friday afternoon at 2:30? Oh, look at how nicely the family gets along. Everybody's so calm and looking forward to Shabbos so nicely, and everybody's ready. Right? It's absolute bedlam. Well, that's the world we're living in. We're living in the world 2:30 in the afternoon, Friday afternoon. That's what the world looks like. But why? Because Shabbos is coming. That's why it looks like this. It doesn't look that way on Tuesday afternoon at 2:30. Only Friday. Why? Because Mitzad Echad, it should be a time of unbelievable simcha. We're so excited Shabbos is coming. Mitzad Sheni, we're killing each other in there. Right? You used up too much hot water. You didn't do the floor. You call this doing the floor. You didn't do the floor. You didn't make all that, whatever is going on. Unbelievable. If you could take people.
No, don't.
Right, don't. Can you imagine? I think all shidduchim, this is how you get the boy and the girl to meet. You give a tape of him at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, tape of her, say, okay, if you guys can put up with this, you can get married. If you think you can, then there you go. So, we're all at our worst. That's where we are now. It's Erev Shabbos. Otot Shabbos. And we're running around like Meshuggahs. Okay. But we have to slow down. Whoa. It's possible, actually, to get it done. And we're going to get it done, and we're going to see the revenues and take us out of this goal and take it from Yad L'chaim.